You are listening to Julia's Trucking Cafe News Hour. And welcome to Julia's Trucking Cafe Trucking News Hour. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy that you're here and that you want to listen to the trucking news. As always, I have lots of news to get to, so let's get right to it. To the news. A driver is arrested for ramming a car with a big rig during a truck wash dispute. A truck driver is facing multiple charges stemming from an argument at a Virginia truck wash. This incident occurred at the Blue Beacon Truck Wash at 61 South Gateway Drive in Stafford County, Virginia, on August 30th at around 2:30 in the afternoon. Police say that an argument began when a truck driver, later identified as 49-year-old Primus Davis, became annoyed over how long it was taking for the victim to move his vehicle through the line, and he brandished a gun. Really? OMG. A witness then pulled his car in front of Davis's truck and told Davis not to leave until police arrived. According to police, rather than stay at the scene, Davis used his truck to push the car out of the way and left the truck wash location. Police located Davis on Warrington Road near I-95. He was arrested without further incident. Davis was charged with felony hit and run and brandishing a weapon. He has since been released from jail after posting bond, and you can bet I'd be surprised if he still has his job left. And in another news, string of unsolved shootings on Florida interstates leave 3 dead and 2 hurt. Authorities in Florida are looking for answers after a series of deadly shootings on 2 major interstates. At least 5 shootings have taken place on I-75 and I-4 in the Tampa Bay area since June. 3 people have died in the 5 interstate shootings, and 2 others were seriously injured but have survived. With no commercial vehicles have been targeted, a trucker who frequently travels on I-4 told local news that he worries about getting caught up in the crossfire. I mean, we're out on the road all of the time, and this stuff, someone is being targeted, or even if it's random. The problem is we are in it, and we have become innocent victims, he said. Boo-hoo! Guess what? That's what happens when you drive a truck over the road. On August 29th, the most recent shooting occurred around 1:15 on westbound I-4 at mile marker 36 in Polk County, Florida. A motorist reported seeing a red, newer model Mustang driving recklessly and heard a thump noise on the driver's side of his vehicle. The motorist initially believed that something had been thrown at his vehicle, but a pistol round was later recovered. The motorist was able to recall a partial plate of the Mustang of LEI or LE1. And then on the 24th, on Interstate 4, another shooting happened eastbound in McIntosh Road in Hillsborough County. A 17-year-old boy died at that shooting after he was hit by gunfire believed to have come on from a 1990 Model Tan Ford Taurus. This shooting is being investigated as a homicide. Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office is offering a $5,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest. You could call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-873-8477 to leave an anonymous tip. And in this story, sheriff shares a scary dash cam of a semi swerving before an impaired driving arrest. A Michigan Sheriff's Office shared dash cam video captured shortly before the truck driver was arrested on August 31st. The video was shared by Eaton County Sheriff's Office along with a description of what happened. And I quote from the article, "This morning around 7:48 a.m. we started to receive calls about a semi that was all over the road on northbound I-69 in Calhoun County entering Eaton County." I've reported on this earlier. Deputies were able to intercept the semi just south of Charlotte were able to stop it. However, the semi would not pull over. The semi did not appear to be fleeing, however, continued to be all over the roadway. They followed with lights and sirens activated, and other deputies and officers got in front of the semi to alert other traffic. Deputies eventually were able to get the semi stopped on Lansing Road near I-69 in Windsor Township around 8 a.m. The driver exhibited signs of impairment and was eventually arrested. Guys, gals, you cannot drink and drive. I mean, I've reported on stories where people have beer in a cooler next to the seat of their truck. You can't be drinking alcohol and driving. Come on, let's wake up and be professional out here, not a bunch of idiots. You're really giving this industry a really bad name with all this. Anyway, on to the next story. Back-to-back incidents lead to a DUI arrest of a truck driver. There again. Another truck driver was taken into custody over the weekend after striking a power pole and flipping his truck in 2 separate DUI incidences. This accident happened Sunday, August 30th after 8 p.m. in Santa Rosa, California. Truck driver was operating his semi while intoxicated when he crashed into a power pole on South Moreland Avenue, downing a power line. Driver then reportedly continued driving and overturned his truck on Scenic Avenue near Langer Avenue, only a half mile from the initial crash. The force of the second crash trapped the driver inside of the cab and dislodged the truck's load of large pipe, strewing them across the ground. Luckily, firefighters were able to extract the driver from the truck with only minor injuries. Once the driver was rescued, officers say they observed him exhibiting signs of alcohol intoxication and arrested him for DUI. And you just lost your job. Lost your job and lost your license. According to reports, the driver had a blood alcohol level of over 0.08% at the time of his arrest. 0.04 is the legal, or you're already intoxicated. Identity of the truck driver has not been released. And here's some major recalls for nearly 4,000 trucks that are emergency vehicles. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has issued recalls for several models of tractor, trailer, motorhomes, and even emergency vehicles. The recalls were issued on August 31st that potentially affect 3,850 Daimler, Kovac, Navistar, and Thor vehicles. Daimler Trucks have issued a recall on the instrument panel, stating that the instrument panel brightness cannot be adjusted, possibly causing glare when driving at night. These vehicles fail to comply with the requirements of FMVS standard. Potentially 1,715 vehicles are affected by that recall. The Daimler vehicles include 2018 to 2019 Freightliner Custom Chassis XCL, XCP, XCR, and XCS, and 2015 to 2019 Custom Chassis XCM vehicles. Kovac model equipment has issued a recall on certain Code 3 7x9 stop, tail, turn, reverse, all-in-one LED stop, tail, turn, and reverse lights in some of their emergency and firefighting vehicles. The recall states that the lights may be too bright, exceeding the maximum light output allowed, which may adversely affect the vision of drivers. As such, these vehicles fail to comply with the FMVSS standards. Potentially 38 vehicles are affected by this recall. The emergency vehicles include 2017 to 2020 Commercial Pumper, 2017 to 2020 Predator SS Rescue, 2018 Predator Panther Pumper, 2018 Commercial Skid, 2018 to 2020 Predator SS Aerial, 2020 Predator Panther Tanker, 2016 Predator Panther Aerial and Commercial Rescue, 2015 to 2019 Commercial Tanker, 2018 to 2019 Commercial Windland, 2017 Predator SS Chassis, 2018 to 2021 Predator SS Pumper. Navistar has issued a recall on their SL2065 steerable lift axle suspension systems with a 20,000-pound capacity. The recall states that the lower rear pivot cap screws that connect the trailing arm to the steerable auxiliary lift axle may not be long enough to sufficiently engage the locking feature of the corresponding nuts. The short screws can cause the hardware to separate from the suspension system and become road hazards, well, you think? Increasing the risk of a crash or injury. Potentially 36 vehicles are affected by that recall. So, and there's also motorhomes included. That issued a recall on electronic control center circuit board, stating it may become damaged from volts over 17 volts or a reverse polarity situation. A damaged circuit board could increase the risk of fire. Potentially 2,061 vehicles are recalled. Thor motorhomes include 2019 and 2021 Hurricane and 2019 and 2021 Windsport motorhomes. And you can look at this article to see what models of those, this will be in the show notes, are recalled. A trucker's pre-trip inspection leads to the discovery of 10 stowaways in this article. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol says that a trucker's pre-trip inspection was instrumental in putting a stop to human smuggling. Smuggling operation was discovered in Rio Grande Valley in Texas on Saturday, August 29th. That evening, Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office requested assistance from Wescalo Border Patrol Station after a truck driver found 10 people inside the trailer he was transporting. Quote from the article, upon arrival, agents learned that during their pre-inspection of the tractor-trailer, the driver noticed a broken seal on the trailer leading to the discovery of the people inside. Authorities determined that all 10 people were in the U.S. illegally and all 10 were taken into custody. Quote, the actions of the company's driver to pre-inspect the tractor-trailer and notice the broken seal was instrumental in identifying a potentially dangerous smuggling attempt. His diligence not only prevented a potential detection by law enforcement, but possibly prevented serious injury or death, and his ass going to jail. You know, a lot of times these smugglers are gangs from South America and different crime organizations to sexually traffic, human beings or human trafficking, and they will hide people in your trailer and you won't even know. So you need to do at least a walk around every evening and every morning before you head out. And in this next story, 3 major trucking companies subscribe to self-driving truck service. An automatic truck technology provider announced partnerships with 3 large trucking companies to deploy self-driving truck technology on U.S. roadways. Lovely! Look what we get to look forward to. Tuesday, San Francisco-based self-driving truck tech company Ike announced that 3 major U.S. trucking companies had entered into their Powered by Ike customer program: Ryder, DHL, and NFI. Ike says that these 3 fleets, along with several others that the company did not name, have reserved their first 1,000 Class 8 tractors with Level 4 automation. Quote from the article, the customers we are announcing today, Ryder, DHL, and NFI, have spent decades building massive logistics networks that support our economy. Their fleets of trucks and their many other products and services move everything we use across the U.S. every day. They are also early adopters of new technologies and have invested heavily in digital tools, electronification, automation, in many parts of their businesses, Ike said. The Powered by Ike program will operate as a subscription service that allows customers to purchase OEM trucks with automated driving technology already installed. Customers then pay a yearly subscription fee for access to various support services. Ike says they will employ a hand-off model within utilizing their highly automated truck technology, meaning that trucks will drive themselves on interstates and highways, after which they'll be handed off to a professional driver who will be responsible for driving them to their final destination. Ike says that a handoff model creates new opportunities for truck drivers to use their skills and expertise where it matters most, like backing up or in traffic or, what are they going to do about weather and everything. while increasing fleet utilization to help Ike's customers improve their operating margins. Yeah, cut labor costs. Ike also cites a Yale University study that predicts that automation will create 140,000 local truck driving jobs by 2030. Quote, the industry is experiencing major disruption with ever-escalating consumer and business demands, regulatory and safety pressures, growth of e-commerce, as well as the rise of the sharing economy. We are at the forefront of identifying new technology and fleet advancements while acting as an extended research and development arm for our customers. Working with an automation technology leader such as Ike is a continuation of this journey. I'd say don't go through Missouri. You better have a driver in that truck if you're going to go through Missouri and a bunch of other states. Quote, no industry has gained more prominence during the pandemic than logistics, with millions stuck at home sheltering in place and relying on delivery of food, medical supplies, and other essential items. Ike's automation solution is excellent for DHL supply chain accelerated digitalization approach. Is DHL still in business? Apparently so. I never see them delivering anything, and will allow us to continue making our customer supply chains more secure, flexible, and robust to handle future challenges like the one we are all faced in 2020. Blah, de, blah, de, blah, de, blah. I don't like automation. Can't stand automation. Puts more people in the employment line. But that's just me. Wine, fruit, and meat shortages in this article may soon be a reality amid truck driver strikes. This happened September 2nd. Because of this strike, many exports of salmon, fruit, meat, and wine bound for the U.S., Europe, and Asia are stuck in Chile with no one to haul them to port. Shipments of fruit, meat, and wine are being held up in Chile this week as truck drivers protest the recent uptick in violence against them. The Confederation of Chilean Cargo Transport and other truck drivers began the strike last Thursday, back on August 27th, in protest against the recent spike in attacks on truck drivers in south-central Araucanian region and against the government's slow-moving security reforms. The violence stems from ongoing conflict between the indigenous Mapuche people and the Chilean state. Because of the strike, many exports of salmon, fruit, meat, and wine bound for the U.S., Europe, and Asia are stuck in Chile with no one to haul them to port. 6 ships initially scheduled to deliver kiwi, apples, pears, and citrus for the U.S., Europe, and Hong Kong have been unable to get their products into port. One of Chile's largest salmon producers is struggling to get supplies in or product out, and 290 tons of grain are still sitting on 8 ships with no trucks to haul it away. Quote, there's practically no Chilean cargo that can leave or with the loads that should be leaving. Spokesman for San Antonio Port, one of the country's largest. The strike and resulting backlogs could lead to a spike in food prices and even fuel shortages in some regions. On Monday, August 31st, the Chilean government threatened to invoke a state security law that would penalize the striking drivers for blocking roads, but to no avail. Videos of truck drivers partying and dancing on the blocked interstates circulated the internet, complete with lingerie-clad women. Then on Tuesday morning, September 1st, a 55-year-old truck driver involved in the protest was struck and killed by a semi-truck hauling medication. Following these 2 events, Chileans are divided over whether the strike methods being used by the drivers are useful or even justified. Still, the Chilean government seems to be standing its ground after a government spokesman spoke out on Tuesday demanding that truck drivers must stand down rather than threatening critical supply chains as the country struggles to restart its economy amid the coronavirus pandemic. And in this next story, nearly 11,000 citations and warnings handed out to truckers during the driver-focused blitz that happened back in July. On Wednesday, Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, CVSA, released the results from Operation Safe Driver Week campaign. That took place in U.S. and Canada between July 12th and the 18th and was the CVSA's first major enforcement effort of the year after International Road Check was postponed during the virus concerns. Operation Safe Driver Week, if you recall, is a driver-focused enforcement effort intended to cut down on dangerous driving by both passenger vehicle drivers and commercial vehicle drivers. In total, passenger vehicle drivers and commercial drivers were issued a total of 71,343 warnings and citations. Commercial drivers were issued a total of 10,736 warnings and citations for traffic enforcement violations during that week, which breaks down to 4,659 citations and 6,077 warnings. This year's Operation Safe Drivers Week focused on speed violations. Passenger vehicle drivers received 14,378 citations and 11,456 warnings for speed-related offenses, while commercial vehicle drivers were issued 2,339 speed-related citations and 3,423 warnings. In total, 56.33% of all warnings and 50.20% of all citations given to commercial motor vehicle drivers were related to speeding. Top 5 traffic enforcement citations given to commercial drivers during the blitz were speeding, number 1. 2 is failure to use seatbelt. 3, failure to obey a traffic control device. 4, using a handheld phone or texting. And 5, improper lane change. Quote, although CVSA is a commercial motor vehicle safety organization, it was important that passenger vehicle drivers were also involved in this annual week-long driver safety. Yeah, hello. When commercial motor vehicles and passenger vehicles collide, no matter who was at fault, the results can be catastrophic. Duh. So they were down from last year's. They really don't say how much they were down by. And a truck driver was arrested after fleeing a crash that spilled iron oxide on the highway. A truck driver was arrested in New York on Monday after fleeing from a crash that spilled his load of iron oxide across the highway. This accident happened on September 1st in Rotterdam, New York, along Interstate 90 at about 12:30 in the morning. According to a local news outlet, 29-year-old truck driver Mohammed M. Sharif was traveling along I-90 westbound when he struck the Gordon Road overpass, splitting open the trailer and spilling the dry chemical all over the roadway. Police say that Sharif was aware of the damage and spilled chemicals, but kept on going, leaving a trail of the red, dry chemical behind him. Police were able to use this trail to track the driver down and discovered Sharif and his 2007 Mack at Benjamin Moore in Amsterdam. Sharif was arrested and charged with misdemeanor reckless endangerment and is facing just under a year behind bars. Yeah, pretty well covered up the roadway. That kind of stuff is nothing to play with. And a truck driver is charged following a chain reaction DUI crash that killed a 73-year-old fellow driver. Idaho authorities have charged a man who they say was under the influence when he caused a fatal multi-vehicle crash back in June of 2020. On August 30th, Idaho State Police arrested Scott M. Roper, 56, on a charge of felony vehicular manslaughter. The charge stems from a crash that occurred on June 8th near St. Anthony. Troopers say that around 3:40 p.m., Roper was driving a truck west on U.S. Highway 20 at mile marker 353 when he crossed the center line and struck an eastbound semi-truck driven by 61-year-old Waylon Schenk Jr. This crash caused Schenk to strike a pickup traveling behind Roper. Idaho State Police, say that Roper veered back into the westbound lane, then once again crossed over into the eastbound lane, striking a semi-truck driven by 73-year-old Joseph Sturgeon. Sturgeon was pronounced dead at the scene. The pickup truck driver was transported by ambulance to a local hospital. Roper was airlifted to a hospital for treatment. Troopers said that when searching the cab of Roper's truck, they found a half-full bottle of whiskey and a bottle containing various pills. A blood test found amphetamine, methamphetamine, how can I pronounce that? I can't even pronounce it. Cyclobenzaprine, diazepam, and nordiazepam in Roper's system. Ooh, buddy, he was high. During a Monday court appearance, the judge set Roper's bail at $100,000. He's scheduled for a preliminary hearing September 14th, which at the time of this recording already happened. And in other news, a trucker's window was blown out on Interstate 75. A truck driver posted pictures of a blown out window to social media, and the driver, her window was blown out while driving on Interstate 75 in Ohio. In her post, this driver said she wasn't sure if someone threw something at her truck or if the truck was struck by a bullet. Going through Ohio in between Dayton and Cincinnati, heading north on I-75, I heard a pop and my window exploded. Glass flew all over me on the driver's side. And I swear someone threw something or shot at me. It's crazy, she said. The post was shared on social media. That week, 3 truckers were snoped down by highway shooter. In June, a veteran truck driver said that his truck was showered with bullets on Interstate 70 in Ohio. The shooting happened around 11:30 on Monday, June 2nd, which I reported. So, crazy stuff going on. And in this story, mandatory hair testing is one step closer, feds confirm. A proposal that will require the use of hair samples in truck driver drug testing is on the verge of being published in the Federal Register, according to federal authorities. That's the first step of turning it into law. The Drug Testing Advisory Board within the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has submitted a hair testing proposal to the Federal Register for publication. The agency confirmed at a September 1st meeting. I quote from the article, "It's been a pretty lengthy review process, but I think we are at a point now where it is at the Federal Register, hopefully with publication dates being set. I'm hoping within a relatively short period of time the public will be able to comment on the proposed mandatory guidelines. The proposal seeks to sample hair rather than urine for drug testing for truck drivers. Hair testing is believed to have a much longer detection period, up to 90 days for certain narcotics versus 2 to 3 days for urine tests, and hair tests are cheaper to administer. The news of the forward progress of hair testing proposal comes just months after an explosive study from the Trucking Alliance claimed that if the FMCSA mandated hair testing, 275,000 truck drivers would be out of a job, and they need to get them drivers off the road. Trucking trade group OOIDA opposes hair testing. OOIDA says that urine is more likely to catch recent drug use because it can take 4 to 10 days for hair to grow out far enough from the scalp for drugs to be detected. OOIDA also cites inconsistencies in the results for hair testing based on race. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, dark hair is more likely to test positive for a drug, and additionally, African Americans are more likely to test positive than Caucasians. Don't hurt my feelings none. For years, the Trucking Alliance, an industry organization, comprised some of the largest trucking companies like Knight Swift Transportation, J.B. Hunt, Maverick, U.S. Express, and others, have been a strong advocate for hair follicle testing. Well, quit hiring those kind of drivers, and you wouldn't have that problem, now would you? And in this story, a 220-foot I-beam heavy haul is a record breaker. This video featuring a massive I-beam en route to become part of a bridge in Washington State is a must-see for heavy haul enthusiasts. It features a 220-foot-long, 231,000-pound concrete I-beam recently installed at the I-5 overpass in Fife, Washington. According to Washington DOT, crews moved 5 girders overnight on August 28th and August 29th across I-5 to support the new 70th Avenue East Bridge in Fife. These girders are some of the largest precast bridge girders ever made. Each one is 220 feet long and the length of a 747-8 jet's wingspan. Building a bridge with these record-sized girders saves time, construction cost, and ultimately lessens disruption to travelers. A more traditional bridge with shorter girders would have required us to widen I-5, build support columns in the median, and close lanes for much longer periods of time. The previous record I-beams were 205 feet long and installed in 2011 on Highway 99 overpass in the Seattle area. The project shut down all lanes of I-5 between 54th Avenue East in Fife and State Route 18 in Federal Way overnight over the weekend, but all lanes reopened by noon on Sunday. And this trucker's wild driving maneuver saved a devastating crash. And that's what happens. You need to slow your ass down. There's nothing really to go over on that. But this truck driver spends her free time in this article rescuing American icon, bald eagles. A Nebraska ranch owner and truck driver, Kat Kennedy, does more than just work her ranch and haul cattle. She uses her land and wide variety of skills to rescue bald eagles. According to Kat, her 20,000-acre, sixth-generation family ranch is home to somewhere between 15 and 20 breeding pairs of eagles, and sometimes these birds run into trouble. We have quite a few eagles on our property, Kat said. My personal experiences with rescue have been birds we found on our ranch. The birds of prey are occasionally injured in severe weather or other unfortunate events, rendering them unable to fly. That's where Kat steps in. Most recently, after the August 10th and 11th derecho windstorm, Kat discovered a young bald eagle on the ground and immediately knew what to do. She called Raptor Center, so she's not really rehabilitating them. She's calling the Nebraska Raptor Center, who quickly took the bird in and rehabilitated them, bringing him back to health before eventually releasing him back onto his home turf, Kat's ranch. It's really neat when you get to see them released, she said. Every state has some form of raptor rescue and rehabilitation center. If you encounter an injured eagle, experts encourage you to call your local center. A list of centers in each state can be found in this link in this article. And Alabama troopers find and seize $1 million in cash during an inspection. Alabama authorities have released information on a major cash seizure they performed during a roadside safety inspection. According to a news release from Alabama law enforcement, the cash seizure happened on August 31st near Evergreen. Troopers with Alabama law enforcement units stopped a tractor-trailer traveling on I-65 and performed a safety inspection. During the inspection, troopers discovered $1,030,000 in cash. Of course, the State Bureau of Investigation was called to the scene to assist in the investigation. 2 occupants were in the truck were eventually released, but the cash was quote-unquote detained. The incident is still under investigation. And now let's take a short break. This episode of Julia's Truckin' Cafe is brought to you by My Patriot Supply. As truck drivers, we all know what it's like to be at a shipper's or receiver's and have to wait to be loaded for hours on end. Am I right? Especially produce coolers and paper mills. That's why you need to be prepared with extra food in your truck, especially with the bad weather coming in, like it is over here in Kansas, up in the Dakotas and Minnesota. 90 was shut down, Interstate 94 was shut down, along with 29. What are you going to do if there's no food and a truck stop wasn't without power? That's why you need to stay prepared with My Patriot Supply. Now, it's not what you're thinking. My Patriot Supply is delicious emergency food. They have food kits that are good up to 25 years. They come in a slimline tote that you can easily store in your food pantry or under your bunk. I can speak from experience. After living through Hurricane Katrina, we were without power for 10 days, me, my mother, and son, and I. If it weren't for the MREs that were flown into us, we wouldn't have any food. There was 4 60-foot pine trees that broke in half during that storm and crossed my driveway and landlocked me in. That's when My Patriot Supply would have come in handy. If I knew then what I know now about My Patriot Supply, I definitely have some of this food stockpiled in my pantry. Now, for a limited time, you could get a 1-week supply of food in a handy and neat-looking ammo can, like you see here.
for just $39. Look at all that food you get. It's a week's worth of breakfast, lunch, and dinners just for $39. How do you get it? Where do you go, do you ask? Well, I'll tell you. Just go to my website at juliastruckercafe.com, click on the emergency food supply tab, scroll down and click on any of the images to find out more information and get yours today. They even offer gluten-free food for under $100. Winter weather is here. What would you do if the interstate was shut down, just like I was talking about? You need to get My Patriot Supply and get it today.
Now, in this next story, a retired truck driver is a bit surprised after SWAT teams raid his home following a fake 911 call. 2 SWAT teams, a robot, a drone, a helicopter, 2 armored vehicles were deployed in response to a 911 call that turned out to be a hoax. This incident happened Wednesday morning, September 2nd in Sebastian, Florida. According to the local news, emergency personnel received a 911 call at approximately 10 after 8 in the morning, stating that a woman had been shot 5 times by her son inside their home in the 800 block of Gilbert Street. The house actually belonged to a retired truck driver, Garland Lewis. In response to the serious call, law officials deployed SWAT, complete with 2 SWAT units, a robot, a drone, a helicopter, and 2 armored vehicles, setting up tactical positions, blocking roads, directing traffic, and working their way toward the house. Lewis, who was asleep inside his home when the SWAT team arrived, was described by police as a little bit surprised when he was instructed by law enforcement to come out of his home with his hands up. Quote from the article, "My first reaction was seeing the SWAT team with rifles pointed at me. So, fear," said Lewis, who was barefoot and shirtless as he emerged from his house. He said, "I woke up from a dead sleep with no information. It was an ordeal, to say the least." Police then removed Lewis and 2 other people from the residence and used a drone and a wheeled robot to check the home for threats before taking the 3 individuals into custody. "Of course, with all things going on with the police, I made sure I was abiding by what they told me. I didn't want to have no incident like that," he explained, adding that he wasn't told anything about the call or alleged shooting until the ordeal was nearly over. "I couldn't get anything out of them until they brought me back home," he said. Lewis says he believes that the call may be related to a recent incident of cyberbullying and harassment aimed at a relative of his girlfriend who lives in the house with Lewis. Just a few days earlier, an unwanted order of pizza was sent to the house, which Lewis believes is connected to a more serious fake 911 call. "Hey, that's a joke. I get that," he said. "This was something totally different." Supposedly, it was Sarah Connors who made the call reporting all this. "The only Sarah Connors I know is from The Terminator," he added. "I just walked by my window and saw the guy with the guns," to Shira Penta, a neighbor. It was quite shocking. "I'm sad to hear it was a hoax, but glad to hear it was a hoax," she said. Detectives are now trying to track down the source of the call. "This is swatting, fake emergency call, and we'll be investigating it," said Sebastian Police Department. "A lot of time, money, and resources were put into this call that ended up being essentially a hoax." The FBI says that swatting first became prevalent in 2008, calling it a new phenomenon, air quotes. Investigators have the number used to make the fake call, but says it appears to have been randomly generated, of course. False reports to law enforcement are a criminal offense up to a 3rd-degree felony and is punishable by up to 5 years in prison or up to a $5,000 fine. "We will definitely, obviously, take it to the fullest degree of what we can as far as the crime that was committed. I hope they lock him up," Lewis concluded. "Teach him a lesson." And in this article, the Trump administration rolls out first ever national freight strategic plan. On September 3rd, the U.S. Department of Transportation made history by debuting a national plan to improve the national freight transportation system. The National Freight Strategic Plan, which was unveiled, is intended to boost the U.S. economy by streamlining the national multimodal freight system, investing in infrastructure, workforce, and cutting regulations. Yeah, okay. The department is unveiling the first ever national freight strategic plan so that the U.S. can maintain our competitive edge across major industries like agriculture, manufacturing, energy production, and e-commerce, said U.S. Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao. The four main goals of DOT's NFSB are listed below. 1. Modernize or eliminate unnecessary or duplicative regulations that inhibit supply chain efficiency, reduce incentives to innovation, delay project delivery, raise costs to shippers and consumers while protecting safety and environmental outcomes. 2. Improve cross-sector, multi-jurisdictional, multimodal collaboration to enhance intermodal connectivity and first and last mile connections, streamline interstate policies and regulations, and support multi-state investment. 3. Provide targeted federal resources and financial assistance to support freight projects that provide significant benefits to the national economy. 4. Invest in freight data, analytical tools, and research to enhance the abilities of state, regional, and local agencies to evaluate and address freight issues. The plan cites several areas of concern for the efficiency of the trucking industry specifically. These include the rising number of truck-involved fatal crashes, the lack of safe truck parking, increasing traffic congestion, automated driving technology, and poor infrastructure. DOT also cites regulations as a barrier maximizing freight efficiency. Freight stakeholders frequently cite certain safety, environmental, and economic regulations as impediments to freight efficiency. There are often different perspectives as to whether these regulations are the best way to reach their intended goals or whether costs associated with complying with a particular regulation exceed the benefits. The plan points to several trends that are driving the need for change to the nation's supply chain, including increasing e-commerce, growing population and economy, rising domestic oil production, new technologies, and an evolving workforce. And in other news, a driver is virtually unscathed after slamming into a concrete slab, infamous for truck accidents. A truck driver walked away from a serious crash after slamming into Joe's Truck Stop, an area infamous for semi-truck crashes. The accident happened on September 2nd in Fort Payne, Alabama at approximately 5:40 in the morning at the base of Lookout Mountain. According to the local news, truck driver Devin Lamar Morgan was hauling AC mounting pads from down Lookout Mountain when he attempted to make a right turn, shifting his load and causing the truck to overturn. Police say that the truck was traveling at such a speed that the left side of the trailer was torn off as it was skidding down the road and crashed into the concrete slab at the base of the mountain known as Joe's Truck Stop. Quote from the article, "It appears that the truck might have been traveling too fast at the curve as he attempted to make the right turn at the bottom and his load shifted and overturned. Like I keep saying, slow the F down." The force of the impact crushed the front end of the truck, trapping Morgan inside, but first responders were able to cut him free and he crawled out on his own, miraculously unhurt aside from a few minor lacerations or cuts. Morgan was taken to a nearby hospital to be treated and did a good job cutting him out, who explained that the driver's side door had to be pried open before the driver could escape. So the force of the accident was so great that the section of the 4-foot steel reinforced concrete slab was knocked loose from its resting spot. Although the spot is known as the site of dozens of accidents over the last 80 years, officials say there have been fewer wrecks since the installation of a brake check at the top of Lookout Mountain back in 2014. That site has been vital in the prevention of accidents at the 90-degree turn at the bottom of Wallace Avenue. Still, there is a plan to extend Wallace Avenue and eliminate that sharp turn, making it easier for truckers to maintain control of their rigs. They'll just go faster. The rerouting and overpass is on the books in Montgomery, and it's just a matter of time. I'd say probably 5 years or more, said the mayor. They've already chosen the route, connecting across the creek and railroad and connecting down at the South Y. The first concrete barrier erected at the 90-degree turn was built by J.D. Faulkner in the late 50s in an attempt to prevent any runaway vehicles from crashing into his family's property. Still, it is reported that vast quantities of potatoes, steel, live poultry, cattle, sugar, lumber, manure, frozen chicken, watermelons, rice, eggs, lettuce, wood chips, marble chips, milk, cement filler, tar, clothing, cardboard, beer have been spilled on the property, and many truck drivers have died in these accidents. I keep saying it over and over, and I'll say it until I'm purple. Slow the hell down. And in other news, a Georgia cop busted a trucker for falsifying logs days before this crash. Investigating a multi-vehicle crash in the morning, Georgia police spotted a logbook violation that put a truck driver out of service. Crash happened on Thursday in September 3rd in Georgia. The Georgia Department of Public Safety offered few details about the multi-vehicle crash on I-85, but they did take the time to call out a truck driver involved for a logbook violation that happened days earlier. They noticed that the driver had recorded himself off-duty on 9/1 from midnight till 7:15, but he found proof that the driver had been on duty and driving at 1:45 a.m. The driver was placed out of service for falsifying his logs and still was involved in this wreck. And hopefully here's a little bit of good news. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is now accepting comments on a 14-hour driving window pause. That could lead to changes in the hours of service regulations. On August 28th, FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, announced plans to seek public comment on a pilot program that will allow participating drivers to take one off-duty break of at least 30 minutes, but not more than 3 hours. That would pause a truck driver's 14-hour driving window, providing the driver takes 10 consecutive hours off duty at the end of that shift. The pilot program would only be open to select CDL holders and would last no more than 3 years. This pilot program proposal was officially published in the Federal Register on September 3rd, meaning that public comment period is now open. Comments must be submitted on or before November 2nd of this year. I quote from the article, FMCSA wants to hear directly from drivers about the possibility and safety of an hours of service pause pilot program. The agency remains committed to exploring ways to improve safety on our roadways while increasing flexibility for truckers. We encourage drivers, motor carriers, and interested citizens to review the proposed pilot program and provide substantive public comments for FMCSA to review, said former Deputy Administrator Jim Mullen. To add your comment, you can click on the link at the bottom of this article that I'll have in the show notes. And continuation on of that article, they push forward with a new pilot program to allow 18 to 20-year-old truck drivers to operate at Interstate. I'm sorry, it's not a continuation, my bad. On Friday, September 4th, FMCSA announced plans to explore a new pilot program to allow under 21-year-olds to operate commercial vehicles. The program proposed on September 4th would allow 18 to 20-year-old drivers to participate in the pilot if they meet one of the following two conditions. 18 to 20-year-old CDL holders who operate commercial vehicles in interstate commerce while taking part in a 120-hour probationary period and a subsequent 280-hour probationary period under an apprenticeship program established by an employer, and 19 to 20-year-old commercial drivers who have operated commercial vehicle in intrastate, within the state, commerce for a minimum of 1 year and 25,000 miles. To complete the 280 80-hour probationary period described in Condition 1, an employer must ensure that the younger driver is competent in each of the following areas: backing and maneuvering, pre-trip inspection, fueling, weighing loads, weight distribution, sliding tandems, coupling and uncoupling, trip planning, truck routes, map reading, navigation, and permits. Pilot program participants would not be allowed to operate vehicles transporting passengers or hazmat. And you can read more about this program if you have someone that's interested in doing something like this in this article. And next up, a horrific truck crash. A semi loses the brakes on Interstate 70 and hits 3 cars. Colorado Department of Transportation says that westbound I-70 has reopened after it was shut down for hours for a major multi-vehicle injury crash. According to Colorado DOT, a crash involving a semi and 3 cars occurred on westbound I-70 near the Eisenhower Tunnel just before 8 a.m. on Friday, September 3rd. And here's from the article. About 7:45, a truck hauling construction materials on a flatbed trailer lost its brakes fairly high after leaving the Eisenhower Tunnel, headed westbound towards Silverthorne. Witnesses indicate that it reached extremely high speeds before colliding with 3 other passenger vehicles near mile marker 207. One, a car carrying a mother and 2 children, rolled several times. The trucker, who was unresponsive, was taken by Flight for Life helicopter to St. Anthony Central Hospital in Denver. The mother and 2 children were taken by Summit Fire and EMS ambulance to Summit Medical Center. No other people were injured. The westbound lanes of Interstate remained closed at that time east of the Eisenhower Tunnel while the Colorado State Patrol conducted an accident investigation and completed a cleanup of hazardous materials, including fuel and oil, as well as non-hazardous construction supplies that were scattered. So, yeah. Hopefully the mother and the 2 children survived. It is not known, according to that article, if they survived or not. They did not say. OOIDA voices concerns in this article over recent crash prevention effectiveness claims. A new study from the Institute for Highway Safety made its rounds across the internet in the first week of September, claiming that front crash prevention systems could reduce 40% of truck rear-end crashes. But OOIDA says it isn't so sure about the accuracy of those claims. The report was released on Thursday, September 3rd, and assesses the effectiveness of front crash prevention systems in preventing large truck crashes. The study states that, quote, forward collision warning systems are associated with 22% reduction in the rate of police reportable crashes per vehicle miles traveled, end quote. Automatic emergency braking, AEB systems, are also said to reduce overall crashes by 12% and rear-end crashes by 41%. Rear-end crashes of someone hitting another car, meaning not that you're being rear-ended. Each of these systems uses cameras, sensors, and other technology to monitor radar to monitor the roadway, alerting the driver obstacles and even taking control away from the driver in certain situations. Yeah, like slamming on the brakes and putting the driver through the windshield. Quote, forward collision warning and AEB are effective countermeasures for crashes in which large trucks rear-end other vehicles. IIHS concluded large truck safety is expected to improve as new trucks are increasingly equipped with these systems. Forward collision warning has the advantage that some of these systems can be retrofitted to existing trucks, so benefits can be realized sooner and with less investment, end quote. A recent study uses data from 62 carriers and 2,000 crashes, omitting less serious fender benders from the data. Of course they will. And cars being at fault. After going through the study, Andrew King, research analyst for the OOIDA Foundation, says that 40% figure may be misleading or even untrue. King states that 2,000 crashes included in the study, only 11% of them were caused by a truck rear-ending another vehicle, meaning that crash prevention systems worked in 40% of only 11% of the crashes studied. How many times did it actually prevent a crash? King asks. How many times did it actually reduce the severity of a crash? We don't know. It just states this figure without explaining how they got there. They got to that figure, in other words. Additionally, the OOIDA points out that data from only 5 crashes over a 3-year period was used to make the claim that forward collision warning systems may reduce the speed of a truck involved in a crash. Quote, "It hardly seems reasonable to make safety recommendations for an entire industry based on 5 crashes," said OOIDA in a statement. While it may be tempting to accept IIHS's claims and accept AEB and forward collision warning as an easy way to improve highway safety, the truth is not so simple. Before promoting systems that take control out of a truck, Before promoting systems that take control of a truck out of a driver's hands, Congress should listen to the concerns that drivers have raised about these systems, including false or unexpected system activation, which could create its own hazards. Further evaluation of these technologies in practical driving settings is clearly needed, and they do have a point. Prior to the study, truckers were already voicing concerns over the effectiveness of these technology safety advances, claiming that taking away control from the driver can be dangerous, especially when the technology is so finicky. Drivers make this point, specifically cite instances where the AEB was suddenly activated when no threat was present. A suddenly and unnecessarily reduction of speed out of the driver's control could lead to a crash in itself. The study itself mentions that forward collision warning systems were triggered in only 31% of crashes where the truck rear-ended another vehicle, and AEB systems were triggered only 26% of the time. Driver experience, history, weather, and road conditions were also not factors considered in this study. U.S. Department of Transportation data states that less than 3% of over 4,000 people killed in crashes involving a large truck were the result of a truck rear-ending another vehicle. The data does not mention which party was at fault in these cases, like if a car brake checked you or something like that.
And I have to apologize about the ducks flying overhead. That was not ducks flying overhead. That was my alarm to let me know that I need to get something done. So I do apologize about that.
And a roundabout in this story throws a kink in a windmill delivery. This happened on September 3rd in New York on Route 20 and Route 60 roundabout. According to the local news, a semi-truck hauling the oversized load was traveling west on Route 20 when it attempted to make a left-hand turn onto Route 60 south. As it turned, the truck was unable to squeeze past a yield sign placed at the entrance to the roundabout that stopped traffic. Officials were forced to move multiple temporary traffic control barrels and come in cones in order for the truck to complete its turn. That sounds to me like a case of misrouting. And in this story, a man accused of beating his wife, then pushing her in front of a semi-truck on I-75. A Florida man is accused of beating his wife, then pushing her in front of a truck on Interstate 75. The incident occurred at approximately 9:30 on Thursday morning, September 3rd in Pasco County, Florida. According to the Florida Highway Patrol, a motorist who witnessed the event said that the victim was driving a Dodge Ram pickup truck. The motorist said that the pickup truck blew a tire and the pickup's passenger, Joey Morgan, grabbed the steering wheel, causing the truck to almost lose control. The victim was able to steer the pickup truck onto the shoulder of southbound I-75. Florida Highway Patrol said that Morgan and the alleged victim began fighting in the truck. Morgan allegedly exited the vehicle and then walked to the driver's side and pulled the victim out by her hair. Morgan then allegedly headbutted the woman a couple times and began punching her. He then tried to push the victim into the path of an oncoming semi. Fortunately, the truck driver was able to swerve out of the path and did not strike her. Morgan then allegedly told the victim, his wife of 12 years, he was going to kill her. Then he fled from the scene, and at that time he remains at large. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'd stomp his ass. Yes, I'm not scared of many people. And I digress. And in this story, Maryland interstate conditions and congestion rank among the worst in the nation, according to a new report. Recently published, Maryland's interstate highway system is listed among the highest in the nation in categories such as rate of congestion, travel volume, and pavement deterioration. The report was released back in August. A private nonprofit company that researches, evaluates, and distributes economic and technical data about surface transportation issues. Report provides the latest information on the state's interstate system, including pavement conditions, bridge conditions, travel trends, traffic congestion levels, truck use, and traffic safety. It reviews the findings of Transportation Research Board Interstate Report and concludes which recommended steps to ensure that the system is able to meet the nation's transportation needs. So there's 2, 4, 6 different spots that hit. And then they have a bunch of recommendations. If you're into worrying about something like that in Maryland, you can access this article. It'll be in the show notes. Crash involving 3 semis results in multiple fatalities. A truck driver and his passenger were killed when 3 semi-trucks crashed in Hudspeth County, Texas, early on September 3rd. Chain reaction crash took place on I-10 at mile marker 67, about 2 miles west of Fort Hancock. Truck driver James Edward Scott, 49, of Fort Worth, and his passenger Eddie Charles Causey, 39, of Glen Heights, were both identified as fatalities by Texas State Patrol. Scott's semi-truck rear-ended another truck, which then got pushed into a third rig, according to investigators. The drivers of the 2 semis that were struck, Michael Bennett, 51, from Florida, and Juan Rodriguez, 55, of El Paso, were both treated for injuries and released. At the time of the crash, traffic had been backed up for motorists due to a separate incident involving another semi-truck that had caught fire late Wednesday night. The truck caught fire along I-10 westbound near McNary after one or more of their rear tires blew out. And a missing teenager hidden inside a semi-truck is discovered at a border checkpoint. Border Patrol agents in Laredo located a missing teenage girl inside a semi-truck during a checkpoint. The juvenile had been reported missing from Odessa, Texas. Border Patrol announced their discovery at the I-35 checkpoint on August 28th. Webb County Sheriff's Office took custody of the minor and the semi-truck driver. Neither, as of the writing of this article, have yet to be identified. I'm also going to be doing some research. This jogged my memory about where is Keeslyn from Georgia that's been missing. I'm going to do some research and see if there's any updates on that, and I will make sure that I provide an update when I find anything out. That's on a previous episode I spoke about her. And this next story, are you ready for the new hours of service rules on September 29th? Here's a cheat sheet that will help. I will post this under the announcements page on the front page of our website. Ready or not, truckers will need to operate under a new set of hours of service requirements starting at the end of September. And if you're not prepared, this fact sheet can help you. The FMCSA recently released a comprehensive fact sheet breaking down the upcoming hours of service changes and providing answers to frequently asked questions in a concise format. The hours of service, quote, air quotes cheat sheet takes a closer look at changes to the short haul exception, adverse driving conditions exception, and 30-minute break and sleeper berth requirements. And what I'm going to do is probably not so much the short haul exception. I'm going to post probably the adverse driving conditions and the 30-minute break along with the sleeper berth, and that will be under the announcements. So all of those, just look for the announcements page and you will see those. And a weight limit reduced at Missouri Bridge due to deterioration. Missouri Department of Transportation announced that they decreased the weight limit on Perry County Bridge from 40 tons to 25 tons. This goes into effect Tuesday, September 8th. Perry County is located in southeast Missouri. The bridge is located on Route 51 in Cape Perryville, Missouri. Chester Bridge reconnects Route 51 in Missouri with Route 150 in Illinois over the Mississippi River. Missouri DOT, after a recent bridge inspection, showed deterioration. So you can't go over the Chester Bridge anymore. And check out this super cab semi-truck. They put a a tiny house on the back of cab of this truck. And this picture was taken at a Flying J pilot truck stop. And so they built a tiny house, put a front door on it and a window and an air conditioner and on the frame of a day cab, and there you go. So you can check this one out.
I greatly appreciate each and every one of you who tune in to listen to me each week here on the cafe. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribe using the link below, or on Cloud Hub, please subscribe at the top of the page. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. As I said, please, if you wouldn't mind, stop in if you're on Facebook and give us a like on Facebook. Also join our discussion group at Julia's Truckett Cafe Regulars. And if you wouldn't mind, subscribing to our newsletter at juliastruckettcafe.com/newsletter. So thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time. You have been listening to Julia's Truckett Cafe Truckin' News Hour. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Take care. Have a blessed day.